Welcome and thank you for joining us today for Modern ITSM, the untapped game changer for midsize organizations. My name is Raleigh Gould and I'll be moderating today's event. Our featured speakers are Valerie O'Connell, Research Director covering Digital Service Execution at EMA, and Travis Green, Senior Director of ITOM Product Marketing at OpenText. Valerie came to EMA with decades of senior level experience in the effective marketing of technology. Her experience ranges from VP of Product Marketing at what was then CA to a successful run as an independent practitioner, serving industry giants such as Microsoft and EMC, as well as cutting-edge startups. Travis joined OpenText in 2005 and is a leader in communicating on IT operations topics. He has been a regular columnist for Security Week magazine, InfoWorld, and the Forbes Technology Council. He has been a speaker at Interop, RSA events, among dozens of others, and he is expert certified in ITIL and is pragmatic marketing and Mandel communications certified. And before I hand things over to today's featured speakers, I wanted the audience to know that we will be concluding today's event by taking your questions. Feel free to log them anytime by using the Q&A functionality. Also, today's event is being recorded and you will receive a follow-up email from EMA with resources from today's event, so be sure to check that email out. And now I'd like to go ahead and turn things over to today's first featured speaker, Valerie O'Connell. Valerie?
Thank you, Raleigh, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So we're going to be talking about mid-sized organizations. It seemed like a good place to start. What is a mid-sized organization? So the first thing, I scurried around finding what other people say it is, and you see just a sampling here. There's a wide range, but all of the pundits seem to top the revenue off at about $1 billion. However, for our purposes, it might be more interesting to take a look at characteristics. So as a mid-sized organization, you're too large for simple answers, but you're not Fortune 500 or Global 2000. There's a good chance that you're privately held. And so the cost of capital is higher, as well as access to that capital being tighter than it is for your larger competitors. Skills gap, that's an issue, as it is in companies of all size, but you're having to compete with larger organizations with deeper pockets for that talent. It's likely that you have fewer dedicated teams for technology innovation, and that encourages a cautious approach to technology adoption. However, I note here that risk aversion runs the risk of becoming outdated or competitively disadvantaged. And standing still is not an option. And let's see, I'm going to try and move my screen here. So I just looked at some of the potential downsides, but I think the glass is more than half full for mid-sized organizations. Yes, you may have fewer resources. Large multinationals do have more, but they also have more challenges, restrictions, and requirements, like a higher focus on governance and risk, larger weight of legacy systems to drag around as they try to do innovation. Mid-sized companies actually have more agility and the ability to effectively change. To that point, EMA has been doing research for decades. I've been doing research with EMA for 7 years, and consistently across practice areas, across technologies, we find that mid-sized organizations have actually the highest success rate in adoption of new technology initiatives. That may seem counterintuitive, but if you give it a moment's thought, as I have, it makes sense, because as a mid-sized organization, you are large enough to have critical mass, but you're small enough to be able to affect change without breaking what's working or taking years to make it happen. So, although mid-sized organizations tend to be slow to adopt, when they do adopt technologies, they tend to apply, for instance, AI and automation to very specific practical business cases, and that turns into a high success rate. Plus, top-down initiatives have clout. The CEO says to make something happen, it takes way less time and movement to get down to the feet on the street. So costs are a reason for caution, but not for fear. You can't get left behind with automation and AI, because that would be a double hit. You'd lose competitive advantage today and end up having to pay more to catch up later. As the old ad said, pay me now or pay me later. Summing up this challenge, as a mid-size organization, nobody's going to cut you any slack. You are going to be held to exactly the same level of expectation for service excellence in IT. But the question is then, how do you achieve supersized goals when you have mid-sized budgets? And that's one of the things we're here to talk about today. You need to modernize to compete, introduce operational efficiencies and update systems. And as you'll hear through this presentation, and as I'm sure you already know, automation and AI are key. So we're going to speak specifically about modernizing ITSM to achieve operational excellence today, and also to position for growth and innovation. Why ITSM, IT service management? First of all, everyone is doing it in one form or another. How do I know this? I'm not psychic. You're here, you're using technology, you're in business, somebody's supporting the technology. So you're doing it. And most organizations could be doing it better for all the logical reasons of cutting costs, improving operational efficiencies, enhance user experience and satisfaction. As you do that, employee satisfaction and productivity goes up, and leverage existing investments. Now, just a word about some of the research that I'll be sharing with you in this conversation. I'm drawing from multiple research initiatives that I've done over the years, and the panels are different people, but they have the same profile. They're IT leaders and professionals from the individual contributor level on up through to CIOs, and we substrate those audiences to draw some conclusions, and it's always global. And let's see what else, and they're in IT. So I say here that ITSM is growing in importance, but it's changing. So we'll go to the growing in importance size first. How do you view the future of IT service management in your organization over the next 3 years? And I've asked this question numerous times. The proportions are always roughly the same. Everybody thinks it's growing in importance or staying the same, with a grumpy 1% saying it's declining in importance. But more than 80%, closer to 90% think it's substantially growing. However, it's changing. On the right here, we see what percentage of help desk requests and problem resolution do you envision being auto-resolved or end user self-service remediation? And here's a critical point, within 2 years. So we're not talking science fiction, multi-years out. The specific percentages don't really matter. It's just showing that people do envision a high level of reduction in hands-on help at IT service management with actually better results. And
Valerie, before you move on, that 3% down at the bottom that gets to almost 100% basically self-service remediation. Does it have to be ticketless? Like is that the same thing, or is it ticketless future and the use of self-service the same thing?
Well, no. However, anytime you're doing self-service, you are deflecting tickets. Those points are together. First of all, the 91 to 100% could be lying, but but I actually didn't mean to associate my little note there where I say a significant portion see a ticketless future for ITSM and with AI and automation, and that is in the future.
Okay, so self-service is a building block towards that, but
absolutely, and automation is a non-negotiable, and AI is increasingly joining the ranks on non-negotiables. More on that coming up soon. So I say here that automation is a hallmark of the modern ITSM. What automated capabilities and services are offered from your ITSM organization? I'm not going to go down the whole list, but you see autonomous enabled service requests and problems, problem resolution, self-service portal, chatbots. Again, automated. So it's no surprise that AI and automation are the top investments. And I also want to say a word about the human element. We ask, which technologies will your organization most increase in use and investment in the next year or so? My research tends to be close in. I mean, there are great thinkers to think 5-10 years out. That's not me. I'm looking at now and the next 6 to 18 months. And you see here, AI and automation for predictive proactive operations, for self-service and unattended actions, and automated cross-functional workflows. Now, here's the word that I want to point out. I have asked this question of at least 100 research panels across different practice areas. And although the percentages may change, the sentiment and the proportions don't. What is the long-term goal for automation in your organization? It is not generally the autonomous enterprise. Roughly a quarter of the whatever population I'm looking at is looking for the autonomous enterprise. But most want to be able to do automation with human oversight. Against all odds, people tend to trust humans more than they do machines, against all odds, as they say. However, we know for a fact from research and from work with people in the field that automation is an acquired taste. By that, I mean whatever level your organization is at in its ability to consume automation, wherever they are, start there, but guarantee that appetite and that ability to consume automation will grow over time, because automation is almost universally successful, and success breeds success, hence it being an acquired taste.
But you have to build trust. It doesn't start from, trusting everything all at once.
No. You start where you are and build from there. And as people see the results, the trust builds, and the trust absolutely fuels the appetite for more automation. I say that ticket-centric service desks, that approach just can't keep pace with modern business demands. I'm not going to read all of these reasons. I'll pick some of my favorite. First of all, it's slow and reactive. Slow and reactive doesn't buy anybody's favor. It doesn't match the modern workplace, either in terms of employee requirements, expectations, and satisfaction level. But it also doesn't work well for people who are working in hybrid work situations, working from home, working from anywhere. They can't afford to be sitting around waiting for a ticket to mosey its way on through the system. When you are on a ticket-centric service desk approach, it absolutely guarantees that to be able to even try to keep pace, you have to do that by continually increasing headcount and cost. And that's just not a smart way to go. It's actually not a sustainable way to go. So the move is from ticket-centric service desks into the modern automated ITSM that we're talking about. My research shows that ITSM teams are reinventing themselves through the adoption of AI, analytics, and automation technologies. It gives them the opportunity to offer more services and do it in a different way. And they're reinventing themselves by using innovative uses of the ITSM platform. And frequently, the results are transformational. And even if they're just like much better, you don't have to get all the way to transformational to be really worthwhile. Increasingly, the ITSM team is made up of stakeholders that go well beyond the service desk. And as you're reaching out, your reach is broadening through your service desk. It requires more cross-functional workflows and collaboration, and automation becomes even more important. So what we're seeing is ITSM and the service desk as a hub of collaboration and innovation for the entire enterprise. And we'll quickly look at two use cases. One, enterprise service management, which is the use of your existing ITSM platform services and capabilities to serve non-IT functions in the enterprise. And two, service ops, which is simply ways to facilitate the collaboration of IT service and operations. So, enterprise service management, the use of ITSM to support non-IT functions. I have done in-depth research on this topic for 3 years running. It's growing like crazy, regardless of what the name is. It's not a product. It's not even a specific mentality. What it is a recognition that IT service and IT operations are very different. They have different charters, different skill sets. It will always be so. We're not talking about making them one, but what we are talking about is eliminating friction. These two have to cooperate in servicing the enterprise, and you can't afford to have duplication of efforts, gaps, or contradiction. So, well, it wasn't that clever of me. I just went into service ops when I meant to be talking. Okay, remember what I said. So when I get to service ops, I don't have to do it all again. I'm talking here about enterprise service management, which is using modern ITSM to support non-IT functions. The top functions that are used are HR, facilities, logistics, procurement, marketing, sales, and legal, pretty much in that order. Most organizations start servicing non-IT functions with HR, partly because everybody has HR. They have processes that are well-defined and are repetitive. What capabilities and services are offered to the non-IT areas served from your ITSM organization? Whole list of services. Average respondents chooses at least 4 ways that you're serving non-IT areas, top ones being self-service portal, automated cross-departmental workflows, dashboards, chatbots, and etc. on down the line. The top drivers for use of ITSM to support non-IT areas, the usual suspects: cost savings, operational efficiencies, speed and agility of service, and the employee satisfaction and productivity that results. I note here that 90% across numerous research initiatives have shown they have active ESM implementations. And they may not call it ESM. They may call it something like HR service or whatever, but it's enterprise service concepts, and only 4% have no plans. So it's a relatively low cost ITSM effort to exponentially deliver benefits to the enterprise. We talk about cost savings and all of those other things, but I asked, what were the top 2 measurable impacts resulting from your ESM initiatives? Again, these are just measurable. And the top 2 are improved customer satisfaction, CSAT, and improved employee satisfaction, ESAT. I've asked this question numerous times, to date, what has the impact of ESM been on ITSM and IT on the relationship of the business? And you see here, out of a list of possible positive answers, 38% choose transformational. Now, in some panels, it's been 29% or 35%. But the fact that so many people choose transformational, that's a big word. And very few say that it's no impact at all. And for you mathematicians in the crowd who say this adds up to more than 100%, yes, you are right. And the reason being that most organizations who choose to use ITSM for non-IT functions start with HR, and then they quickly add on when other functions say, hey, I want that too. So we allowed them to give different answers for different implementations, because they may not all be transformational. It just might be significant. All right, go into your Wayback Machine and remember the things I said about service ops and bring them to the forefront now. Service ops is a way of facilitating collaboration between IT service and operations. And I said I've been done in-depth research on this for 3 years. This may be one of my favorite children. The practical outcomes from the collaboration. What are the results when service and operations are effectively unified? I'm not going to go through the whole list. I've highlighted 2 that I want to concentrate on. 1, faster time to find and fix problems. And 2, higher productivity and less wasted time. Another way to look at that is the top 2 decrease unplanned work. Unplanned work hits productivity for almost all companies. Only 2% of those that I've surveyed say that the effect is negligible. 32% find 10% loss of productivity as acceptable and caused by unplanned work, by outages, and 25% loss of productivity is experienced by almost 20%. So, I mean, unplanned work is huge, and it's something that doesn't get enough attention. But unplanned work from incidents and outages slows down strategic projects. That's both internal improvements and initiatives and external revenue-producing client services. So modern ITSM directly addresses the top priorities and considerations and goals for both IT service and IT ops. What are the top IT ops improvements goals in the next 6 to 18 months? Reduce major incidents and outages and reduce costs. On the right side, what are the top IT service improvements in the next 6 to 18 months? Better processes for interaction with other teams, and then automated cross-departmental workflows to automate those workflows, those processes, and then of course, cost-cutting. So just to jump back for a minute, the top results when service and operations are effectively unified, almost always through the ITSM platform, faster time to find and fix problems, higher productivity and less wasted time, directly mapped to the top goals and priorities for both IT service and operations. But oh, wait, that's not all. Which areas and use cases most benefit from coordination of service and operations? This is a who's who of the top considerations and forces in most enterprises today: cloud management, security, employee productivity, user experience, cross-functional workflows, incident management and response. So this isn't costing you anything. It's doing the opposite. When you have an ITSM platform that makes it easy and productive to collaborate, cuts out the friction, everybody then gets to do their job better, faster, quicker, less wasted time, and more satisfaction and better service. I've used the word platform a few times because I do believe it takes a platform to automate these processes and actions. And usually when I'm doing this kind of research, I make sure I use definitions so that we know what people meant when they answered the questions. For the purposes of this research, platform means a group of technologies, usually software, frequently vendor supplied, that together form a base on which other applications, processes, and technologies can act or interact. You notice here that I'm just talking about platform, not a specific vendor, not even a specific type of platform, but platform capabilities for cross-functional workflows, collaboration, and automation, eliminate duplication of efforts, gaps, and contradictions, and frequently come with embedded AI and automation capabilities you just wouldn't develop on your own, or you wouldn't want to just plug into different standalone silos. So that kind of embedded technology can help jumpstart your technology adoption and experience. And it reduces the impact of silos across the many environments you have: cloud, SaaS, homegrown, third-party, containers, legacy, and technology yet to appear. The good news is that in terms of costs, and I've asked this question of at least 20 panels, the proportions always stay the same. Specific percentages might vary. Speaking in terms of cost, what value has your platform investment returned? And 12% say break even, it paid for itself and then some. That would be probably good enough. 59% say good value, which we defined as it's more than paid for itself, probably returning in excess of 20%. And for roughly a quarter of the respondents, always they say it has a high value. The savings and benefits are at least double the cost. So this is a non-trivial effort, but it's one that will not only pay for itself, but keep paying. I say that modern ITSM can directly address some of the top challenges and goals for mid-sized organizations. There are many of them, but I've picked 3 to kind of wind down this conversation. Scarcity of talent. When you can automate and do things like ESM and service ops and facilitate cross-functional workflows, you're able to scale through technology, not headcount. Self-service requests, catalogs, auto remediation of routine requests and issues. And as I mentioned before, cut unplanned and wasted work. Parenthetically, unplanned wasted work and drone work are some of the top reasons that you lose skilled talent. Back to my regularly scheduled programming. Support hybrid workers and improve employee productivity and satisfaction. We talk about cost savings as well as cost avoidance. When you introduce operational efficiencies and cut costs, you automatically cut costs, and you position for growth, innovation, and technologies yet to come. One of the best parts about using a good ITSM platform is it will integrate some of the tools and processes you already have, so you're maximizing existing investments and you're minimizing the negative impact of siloed tools and processes. When you do all of this, the quality of IT service and experience goes up. You speed mean time to whatever your R is, repair, restore, and you reduce the frequency, duration, and impact of outages. We already talked about cross-functional workflow collaboration and improved user experience. This is a responsive and proactive approach versus slow and reactive. And I have here an added bonus, especially for mid-sized organizations, is having a good ITSM platform and the integrations and the integratability, maybe just made that word up. It positions mid-sized organizations for M&A activity, which is very common and frequent and increasing right now, as well as it positions you to take in new alliances and partnerships.
I love that point. We see so many of our customers who wind up with like multiple ITSM platforms because they just can't get those reconciled after an acquisition. It takes years and years often to do that, but so much more efficiency to be gained if you can consolidate down to a single platform.
Right, and also I'm sure you've seen where the acquiring company comes in and goes, off with their heads, we'll use our ITSM system, and nothing good ever comes of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I raised this point about positioning for M&A activity, depending on which side, if you want to be acquired or you're the acquirer, get ready. So my concluding thoughts, having run through all of this, is that one of the biggest challenges is going to be getting past the status quo. Remember, I said at the beginning that I knew that all of you were already doing IT service management because you're using technology, you're still in business, somebody's servicing it. In a world of competing demands and priorities, there are lots of good options, and they are good options. But you have limited resources. It's difficult to cut through, and it's especially difficult to make the argument with technologies that promise improvement, or in the case of modernizing ITSM, even transformation of processes that are already underway, even if they're underpowered, which I maintain. If you're using a heavy service ticket service desk orientation, you are way underpowered and you're putting yourself behind competitively. But the status quo is a self-imposed limitation. You see over here, I have the sky. The sky is the limit. Maybe that's a little overly optimistic, but ITSM modernization absolutely will have a positive impact across the enterprise, and it directly addresses the top drivers and goals, really for any organization, but especially for mid-sized organizations where the resource opportunity ratio is so much tighter. Modernize ITSM to maximize existing investments. You don't want to throw away investments not only in technology, but in the processes and people who are used to using them. Promote the human-machine advances across the enterprise And those benefits tend to then benefit other groups, and then those benefits come back. This grows, save costs, and stay competitive, as well as positioned for innovation and growth. And speaking of innovation and growth, that I think is what Travis is here to speak with. So take it away, Travis, unless you have anything more to add to what I've said.
No, look, your research is so impressive, and I'm so happy that we were able to bring it to this bigger audience. And I thought that it would be appropriate now to take the audience through a potential solution for you to consider. So we are aligned to the research that Valerie did. There's a lot of things I could tell you about the OpenText ITSM solution, but I thought I would keep it aligned to the priorities that Valerie just pointed out in terms of becoming a modern ITSM approach.
And Travis, I hate to interrupt compliments to myself, but could you, before you jump into your presentation, just give people a little bit of background between the SMAX and OpenText relationship?
Yeah, it's a good point. So if you're not familiar with OpenText, the OpenText acquired Micro Focus in January. And if you're not familiar with Micro Focus acquired the HP Enterprise software business at the end of 2017. So this software has a heritage in ITSM that goes all the way back to the days of Peregrine, which HPE had acquired. So this SMAX
this goes beyond. This is the cat that ate the mouse that lived in the house that Jack built, because you Micro Focus re-architected, and SMAX is written from the ground up, even though it comes from a strong heritage, correct?
Yeah, appreciate that. It's SMAX is something that we brought to market about 5 years ago, and it is a cloud native solution, microservices architected, is completely containerized. You can run it anywhere. We provided a SaaS, of course, but we have a lot of customers who choose to run it in their own clouds, on their own premises and their own data centers. We have partners who will run it for you as well. So really no limit to the deployment options. It's the same software no matter how you choose to deploy it.
Now I'll go back to just listening to you. Take it again.
Yeah, no, appreciate the assist on the explanation there. I'm kind of running ahead of myself. So now that you're familiar with what we're talking about, SMAX stands for Service Management Automation X. And I thought I would focus on the areas that Valerie highlighted here, right? So when it comes to AI, we have recently launched a new private generative AI virtual assistant that I'll tell you a little bit about, but that's all the rage right now. Everybody wants generative AI, and for good reasons, for significantly improving that user experience that Valerie was talking about, as well as helping to cut costs at the service desk. When it comes to implementing automation, our approach to it is completely no code. And I'll tell you a little bit more about why that philosophy is so different than what you're going to see from other vendors in this space. We also provide an integrated approach to enterprise service management that includes HR, but facilities and finance and marketing and sales and legal, as she laid out. We see the exact same pattern in our customers who are adopting ESM, as doing things in that priority. So I'll show you a little bit about that. And then service ops. I love the term. It was new to me when I first started talking to Valerie, but it makes total sense. Our platform does extend into our observability and AI ops tools. And so you can have a view in ITSM that includes what's happening on the back end with all of the observability capabilities that are out there. And of course, that has tremendous benefits for collaboration around reducing the time of any outages, on any unplanned downtime, as well as obviously reducing the impact on the individuals with their unplanned work, as Valerie pointed out. So we'll go through this very quickly. First, talk a little bit about our virtual assistant. Again, we call our virtual assistant Aviator. And the idea here is that it is based on a private large language model. You'll see basically three variations in the industry around generative AI. There are some who are integrating with public models like ChatGPT. There are others who are pooling a number of customers together to train that virtual assistant, but effectively providing content that crosses individual companies. And then the third version is a private LLM approach, which is what we have chosen to do. We've done that because we want our customers' data to be private. We want you to be able to control the ethics as well of the responses that come back to your users when they ask for information. And so we just believe a private approach is going to be the superior approach in the industry. And of course, just like ChatGPT, it's going to engage your users with a natural conversation and therefore encourage them to actually use the virtual agent. Many of you who have experience in ITSM probably started on your virtual agent journey maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. It's been around for a while, but the virtual agents haven't been as smart as they could have been. And I think LLMs and generative AI technologies really just take that to the next level and get us to a place where we can combine it with automation, which we'll talk about here in a second, to really reduce those tier 1 support costs and still maintain a level of security and privacy for your corporate data with the approach that we're taking. All right, let's talk about that automation now. Yes, it's true that pretty much every vendor in this space will tell you that they have a no-code or low-code automation platform. The question to ask them is, when I upgrade, is it going to break any of the customizations that I've done? Chances are your vendor will say yes, but that will not be the case with the OpenText.
Or they'll lie.
Well, yeah, let's hope you don't find out the hard way on that. But a truly no-code platform is one where the core of the platform doesn't even allow you to configure with code. We configure with drop-down screens, with forms, with workflows that are built out of a visual designer, those sorts of things. Now, you can extend our product with what we call a studio app that allows you to build customizations to do just about anything you can imagine with it. But those will not be affected by the upgrades that we do. So we like to say that our experience is a versionless one. If you can, especially if you choose to consume our software as SaaS, you will always be on the latest version, which means that you can take advantage of the great new features we're releasing, like this generative AI capability with like Aviator that we just released in October. And it's something that I think you'll find is an experience that is far less frustrating and doesn't require nearly the amount of maintenance that you would have if you had to constantly go back and recode things that break when you upgrade. Enterprise service management. So you can see a list of some of the things that we've implemented for some of our customers and now are available as out of the box workflows. A lot of things there. HR though is definitely the top definition there. So I threw that screenshot up on the right just to give you an example. You know, one of the things that HR gets a lot of is just questions. I mean, policies are really hard. And what's really critical here is that when you respond to those questions, that it's contextually relevant to the policies that affect that user. And that's usually by region. So I don't want to respond to an HR question in France the same way that I would respond to one in California or Texas. The policies may be very different between those regions. And so it's really important that we have contextual responses, and our solution is built to be able to support that, be able to do case management, be able to build this off of your knowledge management. I should have made this case earlier on the generative AI, but it's certainly relevant here too. We believe that generative AI is built on the tracks of knowledge management. And if it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. So we definitely can help you with a whole knowledge management approach. And if you know anything about OpenText, our strengths are really in content and document management. And we can pull that content and documents into your solution to make sure that we're giving your users the right answers.
Travis, I've just recently wrapped up research on incident management, in which I devoted a good section to Gen AI. And to your point, I posed the question, if you were able to have basically knowledge-based articles that were accurate, automated, generated automatically, and that were accurate and current and easily accessible through natural language, what percent of tickets do you think you would deflect? And most people came in around 50% or more. So this is a non-trivial, it sounds easy, it sounds simple, but it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, it support knowledge management supports everything that you've been talking about: generative AI, the automation, the service ops platform. It really is a foundation, and it's something.
But most people have come not to trust it because it tends to be so static, outdated, difficult to get at. To access it, you need to. It's like using a dictionary. You pretty much already have to know how to spell something to be able to use a dictionary to find it, right? Same thing.
Yeah, but we like to think, again, text has a foundation of content management. And if you don't have a great content management platform, we can help you with that too. And what that's going to bring to the table is keeping things relevant and current without having all of the workload of having to constantly update the knowledge management that's built into SMAX. Of course, you want to try to do that as well, but you want to try to find ways to leverage that automation to reduce the need to maintain that and extend it into the repositories that exist across your organization.
Right, because most really talented people don't wake up in the morning and go, Yahoo, I get to do some documentation.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah. Now, one other point that I should make here before I move on, we don't charge extra for our enterprise service management portal. So the way that we license this product is basically by the operators on the back end, the agents. And so if you want to extend this into any number of ESM use cases, you're not going to have to get another license to do each sort of ESM use case. All right, and then talking about service ops, one of the things that I always get feedback on when I go to, let's say, trade shows and we show off our portal is people will ask me, "Hey, can you put this portal on top of vendor X?" Usually it's ServiceNow, but there's a lot of other vendors out there who it takes a lot of work to get to a service portal like that. This is our out-of-the-box portal, and you can add these tiles and configure them very easily. And we just want to give a real intuitive experience. And then if you want to connect into the service ops capabilities that we bring to the table, or maybe you get from another vendor, we can also bring that in as well. We have an integration engine that's used to integrate with any number of third-party products that you can pull into this. And so what we see people do is, whether it's in the web-based portal or I put the mobile app over there too, which comes standard, don't have to pay extra for that. You put that into the hands of the users, maybe even in the field. And you talk about extending an ESM use case to operators who might be troubleshooting equipment in the field and things of that nature. There's lots of great use cases that people have come up with to be able to leverage a user interface that's intuitive and easy to use. I mentioned the pricing earlier, but just wanted to give you a little bit more transparency on that because we're about that. So if you go to the SMAX webpage, which I'll give you a link to here in a moment, you can see the pricing right there. I just took a screenshot of it yesterday. That's what it says there on the right. But it's like most SaaS offerings, we bill it annually. And it's based on concurrent users on those agents that I mentioned earlier. So it's a very, very simplified model. I doubt you'll find a simplified model anywhere else. It's easy to figure out what it's going to cost you. And, in terms of growth pace and that sort of thing, it's easy to model that out. So you don't get a lot of surprises on your billing, which seems to be another challenge that other ITSM vendors have. We do have upgrades for generative AI, for IT asset management, and discovery and CMDB. So those are strengths that we have across our portfolio, and you can take advantage of those or choose not to. And it's up to you. We will give you the choices on those. And I'll bring it home here with just a recent success story. Diebold Nixdorf's been one of our early adopters of a lot of our SMAX technology. They're big fans of ours. We're big fans of theirs. You probably recognize them from their ATM machines. But they're definitely in that area that many of you might be in. They're a manufacturer, and they are really reliant on reducing the amount of workload that comes into the service desk through self-service. And they've had some great success so far in deploying that. So thought I would highlight that. Another one that I'm pretty proud of is World Vision. You might recognize them as a charity organization feeding lots of kids around the world. And they came to us from another very large competitor that was just outrageously increasing the rates every year. And as a charity, they just couldn't stomach the constant price increases. So very happy to help them out in reducing their costs. But beyond reducing their costs, I love that they pointed out the fact that when they do basically a survey of their customers, that they were able to have a significant increase in user satisfaction. And that's a lot of what we wanted to bring to the table.
Travis, you noted that when I had surveyed what are the top measurable impacts from implementing modern ITSM, CSAT and ESAT scores were among the top, very much like Net Promoter Scores.
Yep. Yeah, and that's we provide surveys also in the product, so you'll be able to survey your users on their user satisfaction. It's just a regular course of doing business, and have that data to make updates as necessary. All right, so I've mentioned this a few times, but just to kind of summarize, great user experience. That's one of the reasons why people come to us. Out of the box, intuitive user interfaces, and now supported by generative AI chatbots, going to make it hopefully even easier for people to engage in self-service. You're going to get really quick time to value because you don't have to code things. You configure them. You use drop-down capabilities and forms and things of that nature, but the ability to extend to do anything that you need as well. And then finally, our licensing scheme is simple, and you can add capabilities as you need to, but not a lot of cost surprises every year when you think of it that way. If you'd like to find out more, this is the link to go to. And Valerie has written a great paper on modern ITSM. In fact, I'm probably doing a disservice. It's actually an ebook. It's more than a paper. So a lot of what you heard today in the webinar can be found there. You can refer to the data that she's collected. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Raleigh so we can engage in a little bit of Q&A before we wrap up.
Great. Thank you, Travis. You shared pricing for SaaS. Is SMAX available on-prem?
Yeah, for sure. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's containerized, so it's you can run it anywhere you want. We have lots of customers who run it on-prem, and we have we run, so our SaaS environment runs in AWS, and we've had some retail customers tell us that they don't want to provide revenue to AWS, and so we run it for them in Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure as they prefer. So we've run it just about anywhere.
Thank you. And are you Pink certified for idle processes?
We are, yeah. So I didn't include it in this deck, but we've got all the Pink processes that they do the certifications on. So whether you think of incident, problem, change, those are the big ones, but release and what's the service? I don't know. Valerie can help me. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but yeah, we've gone through the Pink certification processes for these.
And you don't mean Barbie. Never mind.
Great to know. Thank you, Travis. Can you also discuss what integrations SMAX supports?
So the big integrations that most people want are related to the collaboration, to Valerie's point earlier, right? Like things like Teams and Slack. That's kind of the first thing where they go to, and then you get into the application development realm. So things like Jira and our own OpenText has a whole application development business units and portfolio and program management and our value edge suites. Of course, we integrate with that as well. You get into integrations with the operational tools for monitoring, and there's so many of those, but we do some of those. All of that is done through something we call our integration engine. So that's part of SMAX, and we have lots of out-of-the-box integrations, but it's pretty easy to use the integration engine to connect into just about anything. And one of the cool things is that even if we don't have a way to integrate, maybe you want to integrate it with an older app that doesn't have a great API, we actually have an ability to use an RPA-like user interface interaction. So we can actually just open up any product's user interface and manipulate it like a user would, and be able to input data, to read data, and bring it in and out that way. So it's really
integrations are absolutely key to being able to maximize existing investments.
Mhm.
As I said before, in technologies, people, and processes, because very often specialized tasks require specialized tools. That's great and fair play, but when those specializations act as silos or impediments to collaboration, there you have a problem. And this is where the integration capabilities of a platform are so critical to smoothing the pathway across the enterprise.
Yeah, great point.
Thank you both for those insights. Travis, let's take one final question. Is generative AI mainly for enterprises? Is this something mid-market companies can be successful with?
Yeah, I mean, look, Valerie made this point too, is that the mid-market is in a challenging position. You've got expectations, enterprise expectations, and mid-sized budgets. So it's a challenge to really get over that hump. And I think that generative AI is probably the killer app for getting over that hump. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of investment, but the return on that investment is so promising that, you know, in terms of providing maybe 24/7 support where you weren't able to do that before, or really reducing the amount of tier 1 service desk agents that you need to maintain, because as the generative AI agent handles a lot of the sort of basic questions and even basic responses, and as you get automation built out to, you know, that sort of stepwise automation approach that Valerie talked about before, you're really gonna be able to significantly reduce those costs. So yeah, I would say if I were in a mid-sized company, I would be looking to find a way to use that to really impress the users and control costs.
Great. Thank you for taking those questions, Travis. And I wanted to thank our audience for taking time out of your schedules to join us today. As I mentioned, you will be receiving a follow-up email from EMA with resources from today's event, so be sure to check that email out. And I hope we will see you at a future EMA Research webinar. Thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.